This is Otto. Your story, your style.
Alright, let the music begin. Oops, let the show begin. Well, of course, my friends, in today's world, we say it so often, no violence, peace. But what if I say today with my guest, we say violence, please. That's the mood we're going to be going in. Because my guest today is young and extremely dynamic and very, very successful. Successful music, huge numbers, and houseful shows are something that is no stranger to him. The tunes of success in his life is something which is a great, great story to narrate. The music you have vibed to, the musician's name you definitely know, but his story, I assure you, you don't. And today we will have the uncovered version of Shravan Sridhar. Welcome, Shravan. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for the very dynamic intro as well. Thank you, Rajiv.
I've been doing this for a living. Like you've been playing the violin for a living.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, I must say, you're looking great.
Thank you so much.
What is the secret of your good looks?
It's of course Otto, your style, your story.
You're a quick learner.
Yep.
So let's
Learn from the best, clearly.
Let's talk about how things learned and how you started.
Yep.
You know, today when we tell someone he's a violinist, Shravan is a violinist. He's an amazing violinist. They say that's great, but what does he do for a living? He plays the violin. No, but then what does he do for a living?
Yeah.
And people can't take that seriously because that, unfortunately, we claim India to be a home of culture, music, traditions, but maybe we don't take it that seriously.
Yep.
And I think we go back to all of this, and there are young boys like yourself, a lot of young girls, young talents coming out that trying to revive this wonderful tradition, music and vibe that India is so well known for. It scares me, maybe it's going missing. So we'll start off with all of this. Violin and you, how did that begin?
All right. So I think as with any South Indian Tamil kid, as soon as any girl or boy can even begin to like utter a few words, you get thrown into your party class, right? Your vocal classes. And that happened at a very young age, I think about say 4 or 5. And then that was about, for about, I would say 7 to 8 years. And then the entire voice cracking thing happens, right? So the natural transition at that point in time, I guess, is to maybe learn an instrument. If, of course, the child has seen some sort of an aptitude, I guess if the parents see some sort of an aptitude for music. And my father and mother, I think, they're not musicians, but I do not think I've met greater lovers of music than them. Everything right from, the purest Carnatic classical music to Hindustani music, or even your old Bollywood songs or your old Tamil songs. I think my parents have sort of taken me throughout the whole range of that, while I was growing up, and especially through so many cassettes and CDs and all of that. So that's when it started. That's how the music journey started. And then once the sort of voice cracking thing, as I said, happened, I think the natural transition was like, hey, what do you think would be the closest thing to like sort of emulate the human voice on some level? And my parents kind of felt that, let's just put him in violin class and sort of see what happens. We'll take it from there. And yeah, I think I kind of stuck to it. And it's been a good 22-year journey now in terms of playing music. And of course, playing music for a living happened much, I would say, recently.
It's a love affair that's only growing and growing and growing.
Absolutely.
But tell me, violin was the only instrument you played because your parents gave you the exposure to it. Was there a point in time when maybe in school, maybe when you were meeting your friends, people were playing the guitar, playing the drums, and cooler instruments were being played?
I was just going to say, if anybody knows me on a personal level, I'm a closet guitarist at heart. Like, I absolutely love shredding on the violin, sort of putting my foot on the speaker, on the monitor, on stage, and sort of rocking it out as if I were a guitarist. But no, I think my exposure has always been towards the violin as an instrument, and honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Did you play or dabble with any other instruments through the experience and ever felt that, maybe that's my thing? And how does one today, like every parent feels that their child is great, every parent feels that this is God's gift and this is so multi-talented. But how does one realize that this is what you are made or born to do? When did that feeling come in that violin is my thing?
I think the whole born to do sort of moment, there are so many people, right, who say, when I was 3 years old, I saw Zakir Hussain ji play the tabla. That's when I decided I want to be a tabla player. I am definitely not that person. I think it was much more of a transition for me that the story will get to. But I think in terms of instruments, I think over the recent years, I think I've been dabbling a lot more with sort of music production. And that is something I've absolutely fallen in love with, right? To be able to make the entire music completely on your own, I think is a superpower in so many ways. But I think violin has always been my first love, and it will continue to do so.
Definitely. I think violin loves you more than you love the violin. That's how we see it.
So sweet of you.
But like you said it so nicely, it is a superpower. Which is most accessible to a lot of people who have the talent, who have the passion, not people like me who really want to but can't. But I think music has this extreme power. I can convey love through music. I convey hatred, anger, joy, hope, peace, prayers, everything through music. And if you can convey an emotion, that is a superpower. You can convey your mind without speaking. That is a superpower. Absolutely. What's the role of music in your life?
I think Chris Martin, I believe, from Coldplay sort of put this very eloquently. When he has all of his concert experiences, I do genuinely believe that every single one of those 80,000 odd people present there forget about the entire world, about their problems, about this universe, about the work that they have to go to next day, or unfinished projects or anything of that sort. And I forget the word, collective effervescence. That's the word. When 80,000 people come together to sort of form that bond where that just transcends life in itself, right? That's the power of music for me. And that's in live music specifically, but also the exact opposite. When you are alone in your room with your earphones on, listening to that favorite song, and you're able to traverse an entire range of emotions, an entire range of timelines. It's a time machine on some level. And I think that's the power of music, to be able to transcend space and time and emotions, and even sort of every barrier of XYZ axis there is, right? So, and I genuinely think there is no other art form that has greater power than this.
Oh, fantastically put. That is so true. Defining every emotion, defining time, defining everything put together. And they always say, in school there are 9 planets. Today somebody says there are not 9, there are 8. I say in all of this, if you can make one world of yours, that music can do for you, whether it is for yourself, whether it's for a group of people, whether it's a complete stranger set that gets together. I think music creates a world in itself.
Absolutely.
But like you said, your parents saw this little aptitude that you said. I also think they saw the amazing aptitude of not just what is in the hands and the mind, but also the brain was amazing. You're a 𝒂𝒐𝒓𝒚 student.
I am.
Dude, you shouldn't be in a podcast studio. You should be in one of those big IT parks.
I will shamelessly say I have always and continue to be the biggest nerd. And to any other sort of nerdy kids out there watching, please don't lose your gift. Please treasure it with all your heart. Because I genuinely believe that, even though I did my mechanical engineering honors graduate from 𝒂𝒐𝒓𝒚, and even though I'm doing nothing related to that right now, I think the sort of
You are programming.
I am.
But programming music and not programming some software and codes and data.
Absolutely. But I think specific to my college, which was 𝒂𝒐𝒓𝒚 Hyderabad campus, I think the sort of exposure there to almost like a very holistic education, more than just sort of subject oriented. I think I would go as far as to say I think I developed a very decent business acumen from there as well. And also just sort of interacting with people from all walks of life, from every single corner of India, and sort of being exposed to all of that and so many different cultures. And it's almost like this potpourri of so many people and so many different cultures and thought processes and upbringings. And I think that has definitely held me in good stead post sort of college as well.
So, any regrets that, a 𝒂𝒐𝒏 Pilani graduate? Yeah, have people told you shouldn't be doing this? You're made for something else.
No, it's funny you say that, because so many of my own band members and of course a lot of my peers in music, they have almost been performing for a living right from school days, right? And whereas from my school, I sort of, funnily enough, actually gave up music in 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th standard, because I was prepping for the whole IIT entrance exam and all of the competitive entrance exams. Didn't get into IIT, but I'm so glad I didn't on some level, because 𝒂𝒐𝒏 was a dream and so much more. I think the idea was that it definitely held me in very good stead, both the sort of preparation towards competitive exams and of course studying in 𝒂𝒐𝒏 as well. And I would not change a single thing at all, even though, I do have so many peers who started so much before me into their musical journey. And I would very much say I'm a late entrant compared to a lot of my peers. But there's not a thing I would change, because I feel it's all a journey, right? It's all part of your journey to sort of get to where you want to get to.
So I can safely say you're the most intelligent musician. It is on paper, I think so.
On paper, probably, but yeah.
Okay, we're going to continue our conversation in great detail, Shravan. But as we move on, which was that moment you realized that I am a student of 𝒂𝒐𝒏 Pilani and people die to get there? I love my violin and I'm enjoying my music and people say that I'm good at it. Sometimes you need to take a choice, and it's calculated risk. When did you decide that, let me give my heart, soul, mind into this, that probably has a lot more disadvantages than on the other side?
Sure.
So how did you take that call and when was that?
So, because it's you, I'm going to tell you a very interesting story, Rajiv. Right in between my final year of college, between the first, second semester, you come back home for your sort of break, right? So during that break, when I was home, I slipped on the floor, a tile broke and it slashed my Achilles tendon. And the entire house was like an episode from Dexter, where there's just like blood everywhere. And because of that, I was sort of hospitalized for a month and then home for 3 months after that. And I ended up missing all of the placements that were happening in my college. So all of your Googles and Amazons and Microsofts and Intels and etc., all of them came and went, and I couldn't sit for any of them. There was just this one particular IT company that had come to my college that somehow I managed to hobble my way into their interviews, and I did get in. And this company just so happened to be 1 kilometer away from my house in Chennai. And the next 2 years was basically me being able to sort of juggle between a full-time job and music while still having, your basics taken care of, which is food on your plate and a roof over your head. And in that respect, I must say I was very, very fortunate, because to be able to have a family, of course, them being more conventional in nature, they would have their sort of apprehensions about music. But to be able to have that sort of distance between your job and then your home, that I don't know what you want. I don't know what to call it, destiny, serendipity, or whatever it is. So if you're looking for that one moment, I would say this is almost that moment, because if I had not missed all of those amazing job interviews,
you'd be sitting in a high-rise building.
I have no
maybe in Google or Amazon or whatever.
I mean, that's just one funny instance. But of course, like on a more serious level, I would say that it was more of a series of smaller decisions, right? I feel like any big goal that you have, of course, it's good to sort of always keep a direction in which you're working towards. But I do think it's best to think about it in terms of incremental steps. So for me, when I was in college, I was like, okay, it'll be great to get a job back in Chennai so that I can balance both of this. And then once I got my job, I was like, okay, now that we're in Chennai, let's explore the live music scene. And then I think when it got to a point where I was not able to sort of fully capitalize on the opportunities coming my way, owing to the fact that I was in a 9 to 5. I think that was the time when I sort of thought, okay, maybe this is a decent time to sort of take the leap of faith, as they would call it. And 2 years into my job, I put in my papers. And
as they say, the rest is history. There's no looking back.
It's history in the making.
What you do is amazing. What you've achieved till now is very, very inspiring. But would you still say that the independent musicians today are actually struggling, because there are so many, few like yourselves have actually made it to houseful shows and people wanting to hear your music, waiting for your release, knowing what's coming up. Otherwise, there's so much of music that comes in and goes completely, just like the wind, unnoticed, unheard. What is the reason for all of this, and when does this ever change?
That's a really good question, right? Because first of all, what is independent music, or what would you categorize as independent music? Sort of, at least the way I see it, it would be from music that an artist sort of comes up with, or rather puts out there, which has nothing to do with another, say, storyline or an actor or an actress or anything of that sort. It is just an internal, sort of external representation of how they feel internally. And I think the sort of landscape of how independent music is sort of structured in India, the ecosystem, I would say, is definitely not as great, right? As much as you would say is commercial music. And it is very much underground and it is very much mainstream. But I would say that, there are so many artists out there who are household names on so many levels. Pratik Kuhad, When Chai Mein Toast, Ritviz. In our own sort of backyard, we have Pradeep Kumar, who is just an absolute legend, when it comes to his own original music, apart from sort of countless film hits that he has. All of these artists they do trailblazers, right?
I've also heard of this guy. His name is Shravan.
I would remain very humble to say that it is very much, I am very much at the beginning of my independent music journey, and have a few songs out there, and go check it out on streaming platforms.
They've already checked it out. They want to check out your story. They want to know about the man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there are names. There are people who are recognized, but there are many who are not recognized and deserve that recognition.
100%.
What are the challenges independent musicians face? Like, I know that if an independent musician goes to any restaurant, any stage, goes to any of the corporates, they are first told, we'll give you a chance to perform. Come and perform free. Let's see the crowd's response. Now, that seems not the right way for someone to put their talent forward. Thank God for social media, that now there's a requirement, there's a recognition, there's an understanding, there's a blooming of talent. If social media was not there, I think there'd be many knocking on doors saying, please give us one chance. So through your journey upscale, getting these opportunities, what do you feel was very unfair, and what hurt your respect / ego?
That is a very deep question, actually. Sort of to first address the first point that you have said, 100%. I think social media has sort of almost democratized what branding of an artist can be, because I would say up until probably 10, 15 years ago, the music labels had so much of a say in terms of what kind of artists they want to develop, choose to develop, and also the songs that they would choose to sort of put their marketing weight behind. But you see right now that, so many of these artists are able to create massive followings online. And that almost happens purely through word of mouth and the power of social media that is, right? And I think it's a revelation on so many levels. And of course, I do very much think that the struggle still exists. with so many artists out there, like who have probably not really, I think myself included, I do not think I've really sort of cracked the social media game, so to speak. It is very much a journey and it is very much a struggle, but it is something that we sort of keep going at, right, on an everyday basis.
But why do you want this? I'm still asking you. You love music.
Yeah.
You can always play music where you want. Why go through this struggle? Why fight a battle that really may not have light at the end of the tunnel in all reality? If you love music, you play the music. But then, is there a need for this public, fan following, public feedback? Is that why are you doing it? When you can actually do something a lot more simpler, maybe a lot more easier, a lot more money, a lot more calmer and comfortable. So I'm asking you the question that you ask yourself: why are you fighting this battle? Why are you pursuing music? You're great at it. Is it worth all of it?
It is genuinely a question that not me, I'm sure so many musicians out there still ask ourselves this on an everyday basis, right? And because there are, as much as the amazingly good times you will have on stage playing in front of 10,000 people, when you come back from that, you're still sort of surrounded by those four silent walls, and it is absolutely a struggle, I will tell you, on so many levels, because as a profession also, there's like, I feel so much uncertainty attached to it. And I think that's where the whole conversation of mental health really sort of strikes a chord. As much as I feel it was so much of a taboo to talk about it all this while, I think it is the most conversation that each of us should be having right now. And so if you are struggling out there on some level, I would absolutely urge to please go find one person who's willing to hear you out and talk about it. As for why, we musicians are doing this on an everyday, on a daily basis, despite all of the struggles and despite sort of the ecosystem not really favoring us, to put it very mildly, we would rather do nothing else. This is so much of our sense of self-identity is kind of attached to the music. I say self-identity, not self-worth, because attaching your self-worth to what you do can be a little dangerous. But so much of our identity is who we are in terms of being musicians, in terms of being artists. And on some level, I would just use one word, which is purpose.
Which was the feeling, which was that moment where maybe the crowd was few, a handful, maybe it was a packed stadium, you performed, and maybe it was the inner feeling, maybe it was the applause on the outside, and you felt, this is where I belong. No matter what the world says, the stage is my home ground. Which was that?
I would say there have been quite a few of those, but one that really sticks out for me is that the very first concert that I performed with my band, the Non-Violinist Project, as a band, was in front of the one and only Ilayaraja sir for, I believe, one of his birthday celebrations, and he was right there in the front row. And I still remember we performed 3 of his songs. That's all the time that we had, I think, at that point in time. And after every single one of them finished, he very silently applauded. Very silent, but it was applause nonetheless, because I was hanging on every sort of emotion and sort of movement of his. Because I think all of us as musicians were like almost, he is God to us on so many levels. And to even sort of get that visual appreciation of him, for even if it was very momentary, very instantaneous, it's something I carry all the way up until today. And it is something that very much drives me during times of doubt.
Don't you think these big music directors should take the responsibility of giving the platform to these independent musicians?
Very honestly, I very much do think that, people like Rahman sir and Santosh Narayan have done that on some level. I believe Santosh Narayan sir had sort of organized this workshop for artists that he has sort of recognized and sort of really felt that were very talented. I think it was about a 1-week camp. Rahman sir has been the biggest champion of independent music for so many years now. And apart from all of his film projects, he himself sort of dabbles with so many experimental projects of his. I very much do think that as much as we expect music directors sort of to champion this effort as you speak, at the end of the day, I think the onus kind of also falls on the audience, right? So I would say that, apart from paying 5,000 odd rupees to watch your favorite music director go perform, just pay 500 rupees to go watch the local band perform at the local restaurant, whatever it is. That 500 rupees might mean nothing to you, but to see like 3 more people in the audience, you have no idea the kind of uplift it gives that artist on that particular day. So as much as I would say, as much as you think that, the industry is like sort of not really building an ecosystem for the artists, it is very much also, and I would say from an audience perspective, where it is imperative to sort of see both sides of the situation.
Tell me certain myths or facts about this wonderful instrument.
Okay. Couple come to mind, of course, the first being that it's a very difficult instrument to sort of play. You take any other instrument, right? Like with the keyboard, all you need to do is go press one button and you have a sound. With the guitar, you hold a note, pluck a string, and you get a sound. That sort of initial barrier to producing a clean sound and a sound that doesn't sound like a cat dying probably takes a little bit of time and sort of persistence to really get that first clean starting sound. Funnily enough, I don't think I've told a lot of people this. So when I first started violin classes, I was also, like any other kid, I was just like, I told my mom saying, "Ma, I don't want to go, it's a boring instrument," and all of that. She actually came to violin classes with me for 3 years. And she not just accompanied me to the classes, but she also learned violin alongside me from the same teacher. So I think that initial barrier to sort of producing a clean sound is something a little higher than other instruments. But trust me, that putting in that effort is the most rewarding feeling ever. So I feel that's one myth, that it's a very difficult instrument. It's not. It just requires a little bit more of time and effort on it. Number 2 is that violin is only used in Carnatic music. This is a myth that some people have. I can absolutely assure you, if you go listen to the plethora of amazing film songs out there in Tamil, in Hindi, and in every single other language that there is, you will see that the violin's sort of expressive ability to fit into any genre of music, there is no bound to that at all. So for people who think that it is completely only present in the classical realm, I can assure you there's a whole universe out there that you have not come across. Then there is a third category, Rajiv, where people think that the violin is only associated with sad music or very romantic music. To them, I would say you have not come to a non-violence project concert because it is an absolute riot on stage, with me and my musicians and the chemistry that we have with each other. I can assure you that you will see the violin in a way that you have not come across ever before in your life.
The non-violinist project, now that one caught the fancy of so many people. Whether you like this genre or not, you cannot ignore this music, and you slowly, song by song, minute by minute, fell in love with this. How did this come to being? How did the non-violinist project get together?
Sure. So right after sort of rolling back the years a bit, right after I quit my job, I think I immediately delved into music from very much of a freelance sort of perspective. And I was very, very fortunate to find these different gems of musicians who I was able to sort of perform with, but all in different places and at very, very tiny, smaller performances. And that's when this Ilayaraja sir concert opportunity came up. And suddenly I had to put together a band. And up until then, I was just sort of going with the flow, as they say. And that's when the guitarist I was playing at that time, Naveen, helped me piece this entire lineup together. And that had Kumaran on drums, Marshall on the keyboard, our bass guitarist back then, his name is Suraj. Naveen, of course, on guitars, and myself on the violin. And we started off completely as an instrumental outfit. And that's how it was for like quite a few, many years after that. And I would like to think that we didn't do too bad for ourselves. Yep.
And which was this moment of reckoning? That's one song that you released and it caught the fancy and it blew up the YouTube world and people were vibing and you realized, shit, is that such a big song? Which was that?
During COVID, I still very much remember, during COVID is when we sort of released our first song with the vocals of the amazing 𝒬𝒑𝒏 on it. Funnily enough, this song was done in 5 different languages. It had Abhay Jodhpurkar with Hindi vocals, Nakul Abhyankar on the Kannada vocals, 𝒂𝒏 Bharadwaj on Telugu vocals, and Harishankar on the Malayalam vocals, and of course 𝒬𝒑𝒏𝒏 in the Tamil version. The song was called Oola, and the way the song kind of blew up and got the kind of recognition that it did, we never expected in a million years that a song that we put our heart and soul into, with 0 marketing money, 0 star faces, 0 star value, that people would resonate with it on such a deep level. I still get messages today from my friends in Germany, who text me when they say, oh, when we're driving on the Autobahn at 250 miles an hour, we listen to your song. That is just wild for me. That is the wildest thing I have ever heard.
This is one question I've been waiting to ask you. I've really been waiting to ask you. I hope you don't mind and I hope the answer is true and honest. Shravan, will you be mine? That's your new song and it's going quite well.
Yes.
Tell me about the recent songs you've been up to.
So just to give our audience context on that, I very recently released the song called Will You Be Mine? And it features the amazing voices of Aditya, RK, and Pragati on it. And Priyanshu had co-produced this alongside me. And it is just the most uplifting South Indian wedding anthem you will ever find. And I can say this with all my heart, right? And the way we shot this music video, it was totally off the cuff. I called up one of my wedding photographer friends and I was like, hey, do you think we could go kind of gate crash a wedding and shoot a music video? No, just a disclaimer, I didn't gate crash any wedding. The couple were so loving and sort of so gracious for us to sort of allow us into their special day. And the entire music video is an actual wedding. I have actually had so many people reach out to me and ask, hey, is this a real wedding or did you like set this up? And I can say, you can't fake those emotions. You can't fake those emotions of the couple and all of the amazing people around it. And that's what Will You Be Mine is all about, right? It's about that one beautiful moment before the yes, which is filled with so much of like nervousness and anxiety. But I think that's the most beautiful question in existence. Yeah.
I asked you the question, you didn't give me the answer.
What was that?
Will you be mine? I asked you that. All right.
Stay tuned till the end for the answer.
No way. It's a happily never after. Okay. So, someone will say that in the idea vandu na paathirukene, inspired from Maroon 5. Then what do you say for that?
I mean, I guess apart from the fact that they're both weddings,
and both are super hit songs.
Yeah, I mean, like we're getting there. So, I mean, apart from that, I do not think there are too many similarities, I would say.
All right. And now, what else is lined up? How important is the plan? You can't plan the success of a song, but you certainly can plan your songs. So, talk to me about what's lined up in terms of what releases you have.
Sure.
And what can the fans expect?
It almost feels like I am starting all over from scratch. And that is also something I would really like to tell people out there, is that so many people are kind of afraid to start from scratch. And it's really the easiest thing to say, no, don't be, because I also know how intrinsically that fear is to say, you know what, whatever I've done for 10 years till now, I'm just going to like slightly keep it to the side and focus on this brand new thing that I have never done before in my entire life. And it is very, very sort of nerve-wracking and anxiety-inducing on so many levels. But I just keep going back to that same thing, Rajiv. It's purpose on so many levels, and it's something that I would rather do nothing else.
If music is a superpower, then this is a superhero I've been talking to. It really is. Of course, it's strange that I'm discussing such an intrinsic story with you, and still we say it's still early days in your career.
100%.
That's how it is, because there's so much more lined up. The talent is very much within you. The hunger stays, the passion, everything remains as it is, and we're only hoping to see many more great songs from your side and uncover your story with your style.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. And I would want to end this by saying this was less of a podcast and almost therapeutic on so many levels. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
It was fun. Thank you very much. Pleasure. This was a great show of Otto, Your Story, Your Style with Shravan.